Yeah. Well, you and I had an interesting conversation when we were prepping for this, and you had shared with me, it's not that you're a huge naysayer, you just haven't heard the compelling argument of what question is this fundamentally answering.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to say. There's we have a system which solves the problem. How do I know that this green piece of paper with a dead president or this set of ones and zeros is actually worth something, is actually worth what it says it's worth? We have a system that basically deals with that by repeated gains. We have institutions that have reputations and which honor, which you can normally trust because they have a reputation to uphold. That's a system that works pretty well. And the whole point of cryptocurrency is to find a way to not rely on that. You don't have to rely on anybody being trustworthy, although in fact in practice you do. But which is a fairly it's a difficult fix. Why? Has the reputation-based system actually failed? And most of us don't think it has. I think it's actually working pretty well.
But I don't think that's the whole argument about the existence of a digital asset. Isn't just that it's Bitcoin, but that it's replacing fiat. Certainly, that's something some people get really excited about, and there's a lot of conversations about it, and they're very loud conversations. But I think the notion of value being digital is something that, we live in an era when I can send a text message to a friend in Rome in 10 seconds with emojis and a GIF attached to it. Or I can send an email with an Excel spreadsheet to Cape Town in seconds. But we can't transfer value. We can't transfer money in less than, the World Bank says it costs 531 basis points to move money across borders. The average time is 2 to 5 days. That's ridiculous in the technological era we live in. But the problems with settlement, the problems with converting fiat currency, the problems with the global banking system that makes that slow and onerous in technology that dates the 1970s can be fixed with digital technologies, and that's something my company is certainly focused on, as are others.
Except, can I just say, lots of people, most of them half my age, but lots of people, or less than half my age, are constantly making constant transfers of funds using nothing but their mobile phones. So we actually have, the trans-border stuff is a peculiar thing which has to do with jurisdictions and currencies and so on, but it's not as if we don't actually have digital transfers of person power.
You're talking about Venmo and Zelle, but those are lovely front ends, but the back end settlement still takes days.
But does anyone care? The person who pays with Venmo doesn't care what's going on the back end. It's cheap, it's efficient.
Hey, gentlemen, if I may, not to interrupt.
Yeah, sorry.
One second.
To extend on the question, please.
I am. Lily, I really want to bring you into this conversation. So you have a very unique perspective to this panel with your position as special agent to the DOJ and the Cybercrimes Unit. So can you share a little bit about just how you perceive this through your lens?
Well, from my perspective in law enforcement, as well as blockchain analysis in forensics, I would say that Bitcoin has already succeeded in the most popular use case, or I wouldn't say popular, but the most obvious use case, which is criminal activity. That's kind of how it started. I'm not saying that it's a good thing. The majority of Bitcoin use is, it's pretty much stupid price speculation. There's nothing really to it. Nobody is really using it to transfer value unless you're, a techie libertarian or something. But in terms of actual use case, there is a subset of our society that finds it useful and has found it useful for 5 years or 5 or 6 years. In terms of why, there is a perceived anonymity associated with Bitcoin. I would disagree with that. Obviously, based on what I do, is one of my main tasks is to de-anonymize cryptocurrency users. Also convenience. I'm able to sell any type of illicit goods on the dark web, take cryptocurrency. I don't have to go out on the street and deal with street gangs or anything like that. I can just do it out of the comfort of my own home. It's very convenient for me in that regard. Also transfer of value across borders. I can be a drug dealer in the Netherlands selling to somebody in the United States and taking Bitcoin and it can be an extremely profitable operation for me as a drug dealer or any other kind of criminal. So obviously there are issues such as volatility, liquidity, and things like that when trying to cash out the proceeds from criminal activity in Bitcoin. But in general, I would say also the technology is, I guess it's a learning curve. So not every criminal can learn the technology or even want to learn the technology to be able to use it and not be, detected by law enforcement, because that requires a special type of technical knowledge.